Hey people, welcome to the Run Test. It's Kieran here and I'm out for a first run in a really exciting new pair of shoes. Down here on my feet I have got the brand new Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung. Now essentially what these shoes are the Prime X, that massive kind of high stack of Lightstrike Pro foam, the same kind of carbon energy rods in the forefoot, those kind of 3 split energy rods, but they've come with a brand new upper which takes some technology that we first saw outed, I think it was a couple of years ago, on a Future.Tech project, which was the Strung uppers. Now these essentially offer kind of technology that layers on precision placed sort of strung uppers. They actually look like sort of sets of strings, but these are threads that have been precision placed into a whole kind of one piece upper. It's added to the top of the shoe. The idea is that Adidas can put structure where they need it, keep it lightweight where they don't. It's all based on a mixture of kind of athlete input and computational design. That's a word that a phrase that you're going to hear a lot more when you're talking about shoes, but basically the computer's telling us where the structure is needed and where it's not. I haven't run in the Prime X before. I've got a cold, but I'm going to go out and see how I get on with these shoes. So while I go off and do my 6 miles as fast as I can in these shoes, here's everything that you need to know about the Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung. So let's get into some of the details of the Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung then. Starting with the stack height, it comes with a 50mm stack height. That's the same as the original Prime X Strung, and that's a whopping great chunk of Lightstrike Pro foam. It's over the race legal limit of 40mm, and it's 50mm in the heel, 40mm in the forefoot, and that's giving you an overall drop of 10mm, again the same as the original Prime X. In terms of weight, it comes in at 249 grams or 8.8 ounces in a UK men's size 8.5. Price-wise, it's going to cost you €275. Adidas hadn't confirmed the UK or US price when we recorded this video, but we'll add it to the caption as soon as we know. Bearing in mind the original Prime X was £230 in the UK and $250 in the US, so we'd expect it to be at least that. So I'm just back from the run. I actually ended up doing 8.5 miles rather than 6. I was kind of enjoying running in the shoes and I wanted to put them to a little bit longer test, so that's what I did. I stayed out there. I basically did a sort of reasonable kind of mix of paces, kind of went up through the gears from sort of quite slow kind of plod to kind of my sort of steady pace, and then for a mile I pushed kind of as hard as I could, struggling with a cold, so I couldn't really give it too much gas. So you'll have to forgive me for that. This test isn't necessarily an all-out kind of speed test of these Prime X Strung. But what I will say from those that first hour in the shoes is, yeah, I mean, I've not run in the Prime X before. I think the furthest kind of highest stack I've gone is in the Adizero Pro 2. And this, I mean, you can definitely feel it straight from the off. You know, you're standing on a big, squishy, springy kind of mound of that kind of Prime X foam. I think when you get going, you can really sort of feel that there's, initially for me anyway, kind of a lack of stability there. They do wobble a fair bit, and it took me a little while to get into moving with them and getting my foot hitting right so that I wasn't experiencing kind of too much of that kind of instability. But when they really came into their own, I think was when I actually clipped it up a bit and ran with a bit more kind of dialed in form, you know, up on my forefoot, moving a little bit faster with a little bit more intent. And then I really felt those kind of, basically the Lightstrike foam and those energy rods engaged together and really give me a lot of propulsion. And I really enjoyed running in these. I really sort of felt that extra bounce, that extra spring. I think even though I've got a cold and my heart rate is going to be higher, I was doing sort of 8-minute miles at a lower heart rate than I would probably expect given that I've got this kind of cold. They were fun to run in. I think that's great. I mean, I assumed, to be honest, they're the same as the Prime X. So if you like the Prime X underfoot, that midsole construction is going to be exactly the same. So maybe I should just move on to how this kind of upper, which I've just called Sprung, which is actually called Strung, isn't it? I mean, they are springy shoes, so you've got to forgive me for that. And as I said, I've got a cold, so my head's not working properly. But yeah, so the Strung uppers. Now, the best comparison I've got with this is actually the Adizero Adios Pro 2 and the Pro 1 with the uppers that they've got. I didn't quite like those. When I put them on, I found them very hard to kind of to fiddle and adjust and try and work hard to get them into a comfortable fit. And overall, as I was running, the uppers was one of the things that I disliked most actually about the Pros and the Pro 2. This has changed. The uppers here are super comfortable. From the moment you slide into them, I think they feel a bit wider in the kind of across the top of the foot, in that kind of midfoot area. but also there's nice kind of plenty of room in the toe box without kind of, there's no sort of sag. There's a bit of structure to that upper that kind of keeps them off the top of the toes, but gives you plenty of room. And then the rest of it just kind of hugs, not too intensely, just nicely. Feels nice and light, nice and airy, nice and roomy, nice and disappearing. And yeah, I actually rate this a lot compared to some of the other uppers that I've experienced on Adidas's kind of all-out kind of race shoes. So yeah, other things to say, the laces kind of hold, I got good lockdown. I ran true to size, and that's how I would I definitely go true to size in these shoes. They feel right. I think there's just enough padding in the kind of heel collar. The heel stayed in place for me. With that kind of fold down tab, I tended to sort of roll it down actually and keep it down when I was running to keep it out of the way of my Achilles. And they just feel comfortable. I think these are one of the sort of most comfortable pairs of Adidas shoes that I've worn in a long time. Really rate them on those first kind of 8-9 miles that I did. So yes, I have to say so far, from 8 miles with a mix of paces, mainly on tarmac. I did a little bit of off-road on the kind of river path. You know, my main quibble really is necessarily about kind of stability at slower paces where they do feel a bit wobbly. But honestly, you know, these things are obviously geared up to running kind of fast paces. That's what they're for, and that seems to me on that first run how they work best. So my verdict then, after an 8.5 mile run, about just over an hour of the Adidas Adizero Primex Strung, is that these feel everything you'd expect from the Primex kind of midsole. It's springy, it's bouncy, it's punchy, gives you a lot of pop. You can feel the response when you're up moving in your best form, up on that kind of mid to forefoot. It's engaging those energy rods and you can feel the difference. It's a little bit unstable towards the back. If you're moving at kind of slower paces, I found it's a little bit wobbly. It worked best when I was moving better form, kind of more akin to the form that I would probably be using if I were out kind of all out racing and going for sort of faster times. The uppers though, which is obviously the main thing that's changed here, I think are an absolute dream. I'm really a big fan of that. They feel super comfortable. They're structured where you need it without any real kind of huge overlays. They flex and work with the foot. I just feel like it gives you sort of a comfortable sort of cradling kind of frame without any kind of constriction. And there's no kind of pinch points, which is something that I've sort of felt with some Adidas shoes in the past. Yeah, definitely a step forward. I'm a big fan so far. Are they better than the Adios Pro 2? Hard to say on the first run, but initially I think, yeah, I actually feel just from a comfort point of view, I think I'd probably race in these. But looking forward to putting those two up against each other later in a bigger test. I'll do kind of some side-by-side running and probably look at them over longer distances. Are they better than the Nike Alphafly Next Percent 2? And that is an even bigger question. I'm not really willing to answer that after doing just one kind of short run that wasn't at my all-out race pace. But I think an interesting shoe. They're obviously not legal for sort of proper elite racing because that stack is too high. But yeah, I mean, for people who are going to go and run marathons who are amateurs, then yeah, maybe these are going to be a good option. But we will do more testing, obviously, and we'll give you our full verdict. I know that Nick has some as well, so he'll be joining in with that test when we do our full review. But for now, that's the first run of the Adidas Adizero Primex Strung. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments about this video, hit us up in the comments below. Particularly questions you'd like to see us answer in the full review, we'll endeavour to answer those. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers. Thanks for watching.